What is up, everybody? It is time for my first ever Facebook Live Beefy Boys breakdown. My beefy partner Harrison is going to be joining me here shortly. And it's episode 35 of the Beefy Boys breakdown. We're going over last night's pay-per-view, UFC 258, Usman versus Burns. It was a card that didn't look too spectacular on paper, but ended up delivering us some spectacular performances and plenty to talk about. So I'm definitely looking forward to diving into UFC 258, Usman versus Burns. Harrison will be joining me up here shortly. And yeah, man, a lot of fun, a lot to talk about. Belt may or may not have changed hands. We'll get into it. I'm sure if you have social media and you're an MMA fan, you already know. But let's see if we can get Harrison to join us in here. Harrison, if you're watching, see if you can request to join in. It does this weird on Facebook. That's one of the little things I don't like about it as much. It says right now I have 3 people viewing, but then when I go to add people in, it's not letting me request them, which is annoying. Instagram seems to do a better job with that. All right.
Shoot. There we
There
go.
it is.
What's up,
What
my
up?
guy?
Nothing, man. Nothing. Just enjoying the snow.
Yeah, man. Me too. Actually, I'm up here in Tahoe once again. But yeah, man. Last night was a lot of fun, man. I don't know. I gotta say, the bar was low, but it did exceed the bar. If that makes sense. Like I didn't
Yeah,
expect too much from this.
I had a super low ceiling and like a super low floor as far as my expectations to be considered for this card. But I would say it went through that ceiling. I mean, I don't know. It was a good card. I would have loved to have seen a couple of the fights that got scratched still be on there, like the Bobby Green fight. I was super pumped for, so that kind of sucked. Feel bad for him too. Like apparently he just had real bad weight cut and made weight. Shout out to him for making weight, but then
Yeah.
collapsed backstage, had like kidney problems. So never want to hear that.
Yeah, man. And I saw like on his Instagram that he was saying that like he was really counting on the money from that fight and shit. So you hate to see that, man. That's tough. I hope they can get him
Also,
back in there soon.
speaking of cutting weight, just for anyone that's unaware, go give Deron Wynn a follow and tell him that he needs to go down to 85 or 70. Because I'm tired. I'm tired of it. All right.
Yeah. For those that are unaware, we had a little back and forth with, I don't know, I guess middleweight or light heavyweight fighter, Darren Wynn. The UFC fighter is going back and forth with us on Twitter. It was a lot of fun. You can see that at Beefy Breakdown on Twitter. And,
Dude.
a little back and forth. And it's pretty cool that, in 1 week we had Jimmy Flick retweet us and Darren Wynn talk shit to us. So that's what's up.
Yeah, and I will say 2 things for Deron Wynn. One, if you're so well paid, you could afford a better dietitian. That's just first. But then second, man, my cousin's fiance came with the comment of the week, which was he'd be undefeated in his height class.
Exactly, man. Well, you know what I just realized? Frankie Edgar is the same height as him, and he was considered short for the bantamweight fight last
No,
week.
that's what I'm saying. Like, think for height class.
Yeah.
Who else would be 5'6" that big?
Exactly.
Nobody.
And
So shout out to Deron Wynn. He wins that.
And it's just like straight up, like you can't put yourself in a public forum and expect everybody to like you. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's like I'm not messaging everybody that leaves a shitty YouTube comment like "meet up, homie." Like that. Come on,
Yeah.
like, what are we doing? Like that's so just ridiculous.
Yeah,
like,
for anyone that missed it as well, he told D-Mac, "Oh, you're in San Jose, we can meet up." And it's like, bro, you're a professional fighter. Like,
yeah,
that's like LeBron James going, "You want to play basketball?" Like, obviously not, man. You want to come do a podcast or on Win? Probably not.
like Muggsy Bogues try to like fight every like newspaper writer that like called him short and like said he may not be a typical NBA body. You know what I'm saying? Or like
you think Deron Wynn can do a 50-50 board slide? No, but you
Man.
maybe could.
Yeah, no, man. It was funny. It was funny, man. Like, just fighters just to be that sensitive. Like not everybody's gonna like you, and like it was just classic like short man syndrome too. Like way to like
Yeah,
just
yeah, yeah.
play into it that much more that you're like the angry short guy that's insecure. Like, way to play your role well. You're on win, but
You know what I thought was peculiar about it was like it was a funny response by him at first, and then he got actually mad.
yeah, he got actually mad, and it was funny. I don't know. It was funny just to see how easy it was, to like trigger him essentially. And like I said, man, thanks for the extra eyeballs, man. Because I'll take the shout out and the from a UFC fighter that only helps the brand, only helps the cause. But man, I gotta ask you, did you watch the Gabe Green Philip Rowe fight?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
So I actually missed that fight. Like it was being weird because there was only two early prelim fight. One of them got scratched. Then it was telling me that they got moved up to 5. So I started at 5, and the early prelim was already over. And like the ESPN app was being stupid because like whenever I would click on the early prelim, it would say prelims start at 5, and I'm like, no, I'm trying to watch the early prelim. So I missed that fight.
So for anyone that's listening, I watch these in retrospect sometimes whenever I have to work, Valentine's weekend server, so I'm there. But so I get home last night and I'm looking for the fights, and I find the prelims, and then I notice as soon as I start, they're introducing the fight after Gabe Green and Phil Rowe, and I was like, wait. So then they had it separately tagged under early prelims, and I was like, we got to stop this. Yeah. We got to stop this. It's just got to be the prelims.
Yeah, especially when the early prelims consists of one fight. Like, that was just so stupid. So it confused me.
Made no sense.
It mixed me up. I mean, I wrote down, I saw that Gabe Green won on a decision. I don't know if you have anything else to add to that. You feel free to go as in-depth or as shallow as you want with that.
So super interesting fight, to be quite honest, because Rowe looked really sharp at the start, was getting takedowns, he got taken down after eating some leg kicks, but he was all over him with the hands, and then he swept a full mount and controlled him for the first 3 minutes. So I actually scored the first round to Rowe. I can't believe a judge scored it 30-27. I actually wrote 30-27 question mark exclamation point because that's unbelievable. But then Gabe Green, dude, Phil Rowe, he's got to work on his defense, his hands. He kept dropping his hands and getting dropped. Like, he was the toughest guy. Like, he could eat the shots and, like, keep going. Like, he was clearly hurt. Like, his leg was done. So he's super tough. Super tough. But it's like, bro, it doesn't help you win. Like, he literally was going to win, in my opinion, the second round. And Green clipped him with a minute to go and just hurt him bad and stole the round out. And ends up winning the third, clearly. And so, like, I mean, and Rowe got on top and rode for 3 more minutes in the third, and like still lost the third.
Wow. So that is an interesting fight. Man, it's a damn shame I missed it. Yeah, just between the ESPN app and the fight time, like moving at the last minute, and it confused the hell out of me. And I do this every fucking week, so I feel bad for the people that aren't as used to it, that are confused. I'm sure I wasn't the only one that struggled with that.
Did you get any clarification on Jillian Robertson's injury? Apparently she had not injury, but illness. She had an illness, not COVID.
Yeah, so I mean, it almost sounds weight cut related to me as well, but maybe not. Maybe it's food poisoning or something, because she just put on, I don't know if it was Twitter or Instagram. I follow her on one social media, and she was saying that pretty much kind of similar to Bobby Green. Like, after her weight cut, she started just vomiting and just like wouldn't stop vomiting for like 24 hours leading up to the fight. And then her coaches were like, yeah, we're not letting you fight. Like, her coaches pretty much pulled her out of the fight. She was
good on them, man.
Yeah, definitely. Because nothing's worse than whenever you hear that after the fact. Like, if Jillian Robinson would have came out there and got starched, and then because then you get two different crowds. You get the like, oh, she's making excuses crowd, and you get the, oh, well, that's actually fucked up, and she was fighting at a disadvantage crowd. It doesn't do anybody any good, including the fighters. So yeah, I'm all for it's unfortunate because last night's fight, I mean, that early prelim bullshit aside, ended up being what, 9 fights?
Mm-hmm.
So it was pretty short card. 10? Okay. But
well, man, not counting the early prelim, 9, but counting Phil Rowe, 10.
Okay, man. And then so I started tonight watching the Andre Ewell Chris Gutierrez fight, and it was a pretty damn cool way to start the night. Yeah, it was a good fight. Andre Ewell, actually, did you write down the what the actual cage time odds?
Yeah, so they met at 140 as well.
Yeah, catch weight.
And Gutierrez's teammate actually just lost to Ewell, so that's why Gutierrez called him out to fight. Was like, hey, I'm trying to avenge my teammate here.
That's cool.
But Ewell was, I like that. Good little storyline. But Ewell was plus 115 and Gutierrez was minus 135. So super close fight.
A lot of money came in on Ewell because Gutierrez started at minus 200.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of money came in on Ewell. And then Ewell looked great to start out, you know. He had a really great movement. He was landing a couple of shots, but round one was super close. I thought it was the closest round of the fight. It was really entertaining round one. But at the end of the round, Gutierrez had a head kick knockdown, which obviously, in my opinion, stole the round.
Me too. I wrote stole. Yeah, look, I wrote that he steals the round on a head kick knockdown.
Yeah, man, and just that ended up being the theme of the night, just for Chris Gutierrez. His kicks were what separated him from Ewell. Because I mean, if you just were doing check boxes, I mean, there was a lot of aspects where Ewell looked better than Gutierrez. The movement,
absolutely,
the reads.
I think Ewell's legs were way more damaged than he was showing. Like, he couldn't even take those kicks in the third and still was like standing up and banging. Like, shout out to Andre Ewell for being one of the toughest guys I've ever seen, like, as far as physical reaction.
Yeah, no, if Conor McGregor would have had a little bit of that Andre Ewell shin toughness, I mean, who knows that fight would have gone down. But yeah, like I said, yeah, you have to respect a guy like Ewell. He never quit. He stuck to his game plan. You know, he didn't let pain win. He didn't cower. But man, like I said, I think round one was probably the closest round. No, scratch that. Round two, I actually gave
round two
Ewell.
Was close, but I gave it to Ewell as well. Okay,
Yeah,
so we both had 19-19 going to the third.
Yeah, it was a fun fight because I mean he dropped him with the left hand. Ewell did, or he had the clean left hand. I don't think he dropped him, but then he got the takedown and then he had that heel hook attempt, and I think that was enough to win Ewell round two.
I think so too. I will say, though, that Gutierrez's strategy, it would make itself very evident in the third that it was a lot of money in the bank as well. The body work and the leg kicks, man. I mean, yeah, he lost the second, and it was super close. But, like, the damage he inflicted to Ewell in the second was so valuable come third round.
Yeah, paid dividends in the third. I couldn't agree more. I gave Gutierrez a 10-8 in round three.
Me too. Yeah. I mean, he was just eating him alive, man. Like Ewell was literally turning his back to dodge kicks and take them to where his leg would fold.
He was literally kicking him on his ass as he ran away. And if that's not a 10-8, I don't know what is. But, no, yeah, it was a dominant round by Gutierrez. And, I mean, that's two great performances in a row by Gutierrez. He's really building a reputation for himself.
Yeah, and honestly, he has a stoppage over Vince Morales by leg kicks. Like, he stopped a guy with leg kicks. So, I think for Gutierrez, he's got that low calf kick, like, worked out. And apparently it doesn't hurt him too bad to throw those. Like, he looked like he was not having any trepidation to keep throwing. Like, his legs were fine.
Yeah, and it's crazy, too. Like, what a good time to be a guy that's really great at leg kicks coming off that. Every MMA talking head's been talking leg kicks ever since the Poirier-McGregor fight. So it's like now's a great time for him to get his shine because a lot of, casuals are going to be paying more attention for guys with those good leg kicks.
And I feel like for Gutierrez, the judges last night were scoring leg kicks, like, correctly, in my opinion. Because in the first fight, they showed that they were valuing the leg kicks. The one judge, for sure, giving it 30-27 to Gabe Green because, like I said, in that fight, Gabe Green was doing a lot of leg kicking as well.
All right, for sure, man. And, so Gutierrez gets the unanimous decision. And that's only because Ewell's a tough son of a bitch, man. Like, I mean, a lot of guys, that ends up being a finish. But Gutierrez gets the unanimous decision victory as the favorite. And, we'll keep it pushing. Or do you
Let me ask you this real fast. Yeah. I just wanted to ask you, the judges scored this fight 29-28, 29-27, and 30-26. All three different, and all three differing or variances of, like, how dominant they thought Gutierrez was. I found that really odd.
And I think we scored at 29-27. Is that how we ended up scoring it? Yeah. So at least one judge agreed with us.
I could see 29-28. The 30-26 where I get a little lost. I don't see Gutierrez winning that second round.
No, me neither. But, like, I've seen straight. It was a close round, I mean, it wasn't like Ewell dominated, but we both gave Ewell round two. I don't know about. I mean, before that heel hook attempt, I could see it being pretty up in the air, 50-50. But that heel hook attempt was enough for me to give Ewell that round in round two. But interesting scoring. Listen, one judge ended up, just agreeing with us. And like I said, man, at this point, my bar is just to where as long as the right guy wins, I'm not going to try to die on any hills.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. I think the judges got it right. It was just odd to me that not one of them saw it the same way. But, yeah, man, we can keep it pushing. Women's strawweight division up next. Shout out Mark Smith reffing this fight. For anyone
love that guy.
Missed it last episode, go check out Mark Smith's Wikipedia. You'll be amazed. But he's reffing the fight between Poliana Viana at plus 105 and Mallory Martin at minus 125. A lot of money came in on Viana throughout the course of this matchmake, like since when it opened. And I actually had her winning. I didn't think it'd be by submission necessarily, but I did pick her to win. I told my buddy to take her in a parlay. So he hit that last night too. Nice little four-way.
Nice. Yeah, and she also got herself a performance of the night bonus with that submission. Yeah, man, and her grappling just looked elite. Because essentially didn't Martin took her down, but they ended up in her guard. And, she's a jiu-jitsu fighter that does not mind fighting it from her back at all. And she started just throwing up, going from submission to transition to submission to transition. It was gorgeous.
It was beautiful.
It flowed from one to the other. She even used like one submission to set up another submission. So she used the triangle to get to the Americana, which eventually led to the armbar. And it was just from one to the other. It was really just gorgeous to watch. It was impressive.
Beautiful, beautiful jiu-jitsu. And Mallory, no offense to Mallory Martin, but she, after the fight, she just kind of looked like, I'm sure her elbow was messed up. It looked like it popped, but she just looked kind of like defeated, man. Like she just got outclassed essentially in an aspect of the game where she thought maybe she had a chance to stick with her, but not at all.
Yeah, man, and Viana, I mean, she, I want to say, did she win her last fight? I can't remember, but
yes, yeah.
Yeah. So she's coming out. She's on a win streak. She's looking good. I mean, obviously the technique is there. It's like she doesn't have a ton of scary hands, but not what strawweights really do. I mean, there's a couple, but you know what I mean? You can kind of get away with that in that division.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting to see, how far that jiu-jitsu can take her because, I mean, and she still has plenty of time to round out the skill set. But, I mean, she's looking nice and she's on her way up.
Also, I completely agree with that, but I was just going to note as well, Rogan was asking hilarious questions in his post-fight interviews last night, and DC was being the funniest DC I've ever seen him.
Yeah, no, I loved it. They and I didn't feel like they overdid it because we've been critical in the past where they kind of get a little too loosey-goosey. I feel like they walked that balance a little better. Like they were still hilarious. We want Joe to be funny. I mean, he's literally a fucking comedian, but it's just sometimes it can strike the wrong tone or whatever. But I thought they did a great job last night as well.
Yeah, sometimes it feels like DC's aware that Joe's a comedian, so he's trying to make him laugh or say funny things, and it's like, DC, just let it flow.
Yeah, he's hamming it up. He's the dad in the front seat trying to impress the cool kids. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I mean, if they make John Anik laugh too hard, it gets wild. John Anik's laugh is crazy.
Oh man, yeah, great crew, man, legendary crew. Good to have them all back together last night. And I definitely want to spend plenty of time on this next fight. Our boy Bilal, remember the name Muhammad, fighting Diego Lima. And Bilal was a huge favorite.
He used to be the bully. I wish he'd go back to that nickname. Bilal the Bully Muhammad.
I like it. I think that's still either his Instagram or his Twitter.
It's
B-Bully or whatever. But I don't know. I remember the name. I can't front. I like Bilal. Remember the name Muhammad. I don't know. It works.
Especially I remember roasting him back in July about this nickname.
Well, the thing is, it kind of ties into his narrative. His whole narrative is that literally nobody remembers his name or gives him any credit. So I don't know. I feel like maybe it's one of those things where life imitates art. You know what I'm saying? He spoke that into existence. But yeah, man, Bilal Muhammad. Minus 490, huge favorite, ranked 13, fighting the unranked Diego Lima, plus 370. The rankings McGee and me loved how much sense all that made. And at first I was like, man, why is this fight even getting made? But apparently this fight was made over a year ago, and they both had to pull out or whatever. So that always kind of gives fighters a pass, in my opinion. Like they both wanted to fight each other, and that's a good enough reason for me for these two guys to fight.
You know what's crazy to me, man, is Diego Lima's brother is Douglas Lima, who is the welterweight champion in Bellator and the 155 champion. He's a
Wow,
monster.
double champ.
Douglas Lima is a monster. So it's
You know
just crazy that, like,
you know if that's his older or younger brother? Do you know?
I want to say younger.
Okay.
I want to say younger because Diego's the guy that owns the gym in Brazil. So I think Douglas is the younger brother.
Okay, kind of like the Shevchenkos.
Yeah, exactly. And
Yeah.
it's just crazy to me that one, Diego Lima fights in the UFC and not in Bellator. Like, your brother's a champ. Like,
It's
but maybe that's
obviously
because
working
he's
out.
like, I don't want to fight against him. So can see that, but it kind of works against him. I feel like in terms of promotion, like it's like the Diaz's. Like when you have both, it's a little better. So,
No, I feel you. I feel you, especially if one's had an easier path to success. Not necessarily easier path to success, but a proven formula, like a blueprint on how to have a success.
Like one's an elite fighter.
Yeah.
So you know that that's at least in their bloodline somewhere.
And it just kind of makes me question if the younger one is that much better or if the UFC is that much deeper. Like, it kind of calls that into question, you know. It's
a great point.
It's kind of apples to orange comparison. But yeah, man, I mean, this whenever a fighter is a minus 490 favorite, it's not necessarily, you know, if he's gonna win typically, and we'll get into that later. But, but it's really, you know, how dominant and how is he gonna bow it? How good is he gonna look? And
how good does his skill set look?
Yeah, and you kind of got to grade a little stricter whenever it's that much of a favorite, in my opinion.
You know what it reminds me of is like whenever like OU plays Kansas, let's say. And so the line is plus 35, but really it's just about how well do you execute your plays when it's your first team. Like, you know, like when you're actually out there giving it your all, are you that good? Is your skill set that elite?
100%. Yeah, good comparison there. And yeah, man, I mean, round one, it was all about Bilal's hands, and he was just so stalking forward. Forward pressure, coming forward. Controlling the center of the octagon, which is exactly, you know, what we expected to see from him. He looked great, man. He's just solid, man. Like, he's not like
super solid. That's exactly what I think. It's exactly how when I was watching him, I was like, he just seems like a well-rounded, like, pressure-heavy fighter.
Yeah, exactly. Tough as nails, goes about it the right way. And what I like about Belal Muhammad is that he's such a fan of the sport and so immersed in the sport. Like, I've never understood those guys. And I played football with guys like this. Like, sometimes the best guy on your team doesn't even like watching football on the weekends. Or like
I've never understood that, bro.
But certain people are like that, you know. Like, there's certain skaters that like don't care about what other skaters do. Certain fighters that don't even watch the UFC. But Belal Muhammad is the exact opposite. You know, he's balls deep in it. He loves the sport. He loves the game. And yeah, man, I love watching him fight. Like I said, it's just kind of not one thing about him necessarily stands out, but it just he checks all the boxes, you know?
Yeah, I mean,
I can't hear you. Oh, there you go.
Sorry about that. Facebook doesn't have the same. Anyway, not the point. What am I trying to say here? Oh, yeah. So I feel like Muhammad is just really essentially was throwing nice combinations and like kind of does everything well. The only thing I think he needs to work on is maybe leg kick defense or just maybe overall striking defense.
Oh, yeah, for sure, man. And then, man, in round two was a little bit closer because I still gave it. Belal Muhammad looked great, but God damn it, Lima was chewing up his leg with them leg kicks in round two, man.
Yeah, I mean, so that's kind of what I was starting to notice too, is that like he was dominating the strike differential. Like I think at that point it was for like 80 to 45 in strikes, right, by the end of round two. Sorry, someone just keeps calling me, and it's just I don't know what they can't figure it out for.
You're good, bro.
So yeah, the leg kicks were crazy, and I actually wrote that like Lima was tough as hell to be just like eating those shots and still be throwing back leg kicks hard like that.
Yeah, Lima didn't have quit in him, even though, you know, he was pretty much getting dominated, but he was still finding ways to make it tough on Belal. You know, I thought all things being considered for a minus 490 favorite, I mean, Lima made his night about as tough as he could have made it. You know what I mean? It wasn't a landslide. Even though on paper it was a landslide victory, he made him earn it. I guess I'll put it that way.
Like this easily could have been a 30-26 or 30-25 against.
Yeah, man, It could honestly be close to a 30-26 anyway. At least because round three, I could have been a 10-8 in my opinion. Round three, Bilal, I mean, because he was piecing him up with the hands. He got the takedown. He took his back. I mean, that's pretty close to a 10-8.
Yeah, I mean, did you score a 10-8?
I put 10-8 question mark. Like, it could have been. I wouldn't be
Okay.
mad. I wouldn't be mad if somebody scored that at 10-8 because, like I said, whenever a fighter is able to dominate multiple positions, like you dominate the stand-up and the grappling in the same round, then, you know, I'm open to considering a 10-8. You know what I mean? But
Right.
not a ton of damage. But yeah, Lima's also a super tough fighter. But yeah, I mean, like I said, on paper it ends up looking like, you know, Bilal dominated him, and he did dominate him in a lot of ways. But like I said, I just feel like Lima gave him a tough night at the office and made him earn every penny, you know?
Yeah, and Lima's tough, man. He had a lot of shots. Like, shout out to Diego Lima.
Now, what I want to talk about a little bit next is what's next for Bilal Muhammad. I thought he aimed low in his call-out.
Yeah, it was kind of like he literally called out number 12. But I guess if you're getting an unranked guy that's like kind of out there, he's like trying to say like, I want to solidify my spot in the division. Maybe that jumps into, you know, 11 or 10 as well. And then from there, he gets to work his way into the top 5.
Yeah, but I don't know. I just feel like he aimed low because, like, as soon as he won, everybody on the broadcast was like, "Oh yeah, top 10, top 10." And then so, like, literally between him winning the fight and his post-fight interview, I literally went and wrote down the 5 through 10 welterweights because I was like, surely he's gonna call out a top 10. And then he calls out number 12, and I'm like, I just felt like it was a missed opportunity. But yeah, so he called out our boy Zhang Liang, Li Zhang Liang.
The Leech.
Here's some other people he could have called out. I mean, Luke's 10, Magny's 9, Maya's 8, Woodley's 7. I mean, I feel like those are all winnable fights and all huge names. Like, I don't know.
Woodley's 7?
Woodley's 7.
I'd have been calling for Woodley, or I don't know if I call for Magny if I'm Muhammad, because Magny is going to have a good fight style against me.
Yeah, that could be a rough matchup. But like, I don't know, even Maya at this stage
Maya
of
would
his
be
career,
a good one
that's
too.
a big
That'd be
name.
a nice name.
You know, a one-dimensional kind of fighter. You know what to look out for. I don't know. I feel you, Woodley or Maya would have been. Listen, aim a little higher, right, and shoot for the stars, land on the moon. But I don't know.
Well, you're totally right. Only because the way he did it was, if this person quit calling me, I swear to God, but like I'm literally gonna burn their house down. So. What's like whack about it is like Joe was like pretty much saying like, all right, cool interview, whatever. And then fucking Muhammad was like, wait, I don't get to make a call out? And it's like, all right, let's hear it. Like, you must have something good. And then he literally calls out one ahead of him. And you're like, bro, did you just stop the whole broadcast so you could do that? Because that didn't even make sense. Like, no, yeah, I bet Sean Shelby and McMahon were like, that's all he wants?
Yeah, right. That's like that's all you want? Exactly. It's like whenever like you have a Halloween candy out and you say take as many as you want and a kid takes one fucking Tootsie Roll. Like,
one.
What kind of weird like, kid are you?
Yeah, you're just like looking at him like, no, take more. Like, you almost tell him like, no, do more. But
no, exactly.
I did think it was hilarious. He put on the sunglasses too at the end.
Yeah, man, and then he just and then he even went reinforced his bad decision. He was like, I don't care if I got to fight 12, 11, 10 in order. I was like, bro, but you don't. You just signed up.
Yeah, like, but you don't.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. It's like I like the spirit of it and how game he is, and he's not necessarily looking to cut the line or get put on a rocket ship, but it's like, do yourself a favor at the same time. I don't know. I said, because I like Bilal Muhammad, and I'm really curious to see how high he can move in this division. And I just feel like fighting Jalen ain't necessarily the route to necessarily see that happen. But anyway, we'll keep it pushing. I thought that was fun to talk about because it was a really strange call.
Oh, yeah.
Because usually guys aim way too high. Like, they win, their first prelim fight. And they're like, give me the title shot. And it's like, you get the fuck out of here. You just wasted your call out. But in this case, he aimed too low. And it was a kind of strange, especially after going out of his way to ask for the call out and then making the weakest call out. I love you, Bilal, but yeah, I wasn't the biggest fan of that call out.
Yeah, and it was solely based on him being ranked number 12. Nothing else. Like, there's no personal story between that at all. So it's not like sometimes you might call out a guy that's one behind you or one in front of you, but it's like, hey, we have beef on the side or something like that. And it's like, cool, we'll build this fight. Like, that's going to be nice.
Yes.
There's nothing on this. It's literally just like he's one ahead of me. I want his spot. It's like shoot higher.
Yeah, no, exactly, man. Exactly, man. Yeah, I couldn't agree more, man. I'm glad you felt the same way. No, this next fight, I mean, early
wow.
in the year, but upset of the year so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. The odds on it were plus 3,000 if you chose it to go this way.
That's a crazy number. Yeah, man. Rodolfo Vieira, minus 490, which is the same amount of favorite that Bilal Muhammad was. So as much
So you're
as
expecting domination.
Yes. Yeah, and just everybody was just dick riding him. The broadcast was building him up.
I was too.
Yeah, I mean, and it's rightfully so. I mean, anybody that's out there saying like, "Oh, I saw this coming," is full of shit because, like, literally, that's just nobody did. But
well, he's literally currently the best jiu-jitsu practitioner in the world at his weight.
And if you just look at him, I mean, he's absolutely jacked. They're fighting at middleweight.
Looks like Paulo Costa.
Yes, he literally looks like he would be big for a 205er. He looks like there may be some Mexican supplements going on.
That Brazilian acai. Now, he might have to go to 205, by the way, after seeing this.
Yeah, no, and I think it was kind of a direct correlation. I don't think it can necessarily be, like, glossed over, especially with how this fight transpired. But, yeah, we got Rodolfo Vieira, minus 490. Favorite versus Anthony Hernandez, plus 370 underdog, fighting at middleweight. And, man, round one was a crazy-ass round. Vieira was very dominant in the first half of the round. And then here's the story for the rest of the night. And he shot his load in the first half of round one, which it's rare to see a fighter gas out in the first round. And that's exactly what we saw.
I mean, literally blew his arms out, going for chokes, jiu-jitsu was beautiful, but Hernandez did a fantastic job surviving. And was cracking him on the feet.
Well, and you
him.
always hear the commentators or the coaches in the corner, whoever, talking heads, they always said, like, when somebody's trying to, put you in a submission, you can't panic, you have to stay calm. And I thought Hernandez was that personified. Like, he was fighting so loose, and you hear underdogs talk about this a lot. A lot of fighters will tell you that they'd rather be an underdog because there's no pressure and it's easier to fight loose and just kind of let the hands go and kind of like you're expected to lose anyway. And like Michael Chandler talked about this on his recent Food Trucks with Brendan Schaub. Michael Chandler was like, I actually hate being a huge favorite, like how I was like in Bellator, because then like even if you get a second round knockout, everybody's just saying, oh, you didn't get it in the first. And so I thought Hernandez was that personified. Like nobody gave him a shot, and he was out there fighting loose, having fun. Pretty much said, "Fuck it, let's bang." And it was a lot of fun to watch. I don't know, it came across on the screen, but at the start of round one, you're just like, "Oh man, this is going exactly like how we thought it would go." And then he said Vieira gassed out, and then Hernandez finished the round strong and almost finished Vieira with his hands at the end of round one.
Well, and Rogan even said it too. Like he even got up on the hype train. Like as soon as Vieira got him on the ground and was transitioning, Rogan was like, "Oh, this is over. Hernandez is in a bad spot." Well, apparently not.
Yeah.
And like I love that Hernandez sunk in the anaconda. Wasn't even looking anywhere else but outside to the arm he knew that was not in the guillotine, and he was just watching for the tap. As soon as he saw it, he just started shaking his head. Was like, "Yeah, I did it."
Yeah, man, like I said, because it would have been one thing if he would have caught him and knocked him out. That's usually kind of what happens in these big underdogs cash. It's kind of a fluky type of thing. But, man, he submitted the jiu-jitsu champion. And I was just watching, like, is he going to sub him? Is he going to sub him? And when he did, I literally stood up and, like, jumped. I was hyped.
Yeah, I lost my shit on that. That was crazy.
That was so crazy. Dope. Like I said, if he would have knocked him out, it would have been like, okay, the grappler got outstruck. But when the grappler, the world-class grappler gets submitted, I mean, that's a lot of fun, especially by a huge underdog.
Yeah. I mean, what a great ending to the prelims.
And if anybody earned their $50,000, it's Hernandez. He got a performance of the night bonus for that. Like I said, rightfully so.
Absolutely.
He looked great. And it's just one of those things, though, where I don't want to necessarily project greatness for Hernandez moving forward. I just think last night was like his night, like the fucking moon and stars aligned. But I mean, maybe he'll prove me wrong. I just, like I said, I think he got the Vieira gassing out. and the matchup, and just it was his night. Maybe the weight cut went better for him. It seemed like, and what you're talking about, Vieira may have to move up because it seems like that weight cut sucked all his gas tank.
He was the most gassed I've ever seen someone. Like at the end of the first round, when Hernandez stood up over him and looked down and saw Vieira still on the ground, like on a knee, breathing in, just like sucking air. Hernandez knew at that point.
Yeah.
He knew.
Yeah,
he knew. It was like a lamb to the slaughter.
Like, we never even see fat heavyweights get that out of breath in round one. It was crazy. He was gassed, man, and they said that has to be due to the weight cut. He was a huge man trying to make middleweight. We'll see what happens moving forward for both of those fighters. But, yeah, I mean, I think both of them, have still, like I said, Vieira's not done. Like, he could easily go sub 3 people in a row. So, I mean, you can't count a guy like that out. And you never know what a win like this does for a fighter's confidence. We talk about all the time how mental and how much confidence matters when it comes to these fighters. You never know what he could launch a whole career off this. So I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm just saying, like, you never know what a win like this can do for a fighter's psyche.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Do you want to go into the main card, or do you want to take a break in between?
If you're down to go to the main card, I'm down to go to the main card.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's get it, man. Because this next fight was so much fun, man. This next fight was so much fun, man. We start the main card off with Maki Pitolo plus 145 versus Julian Marquez minus 175. And this fight, and also I got to shout out Marquez's nickname. We're big fans of nicknames on this show.
Dude, both of these guys' nicknames.
Yeah, definitely. But the Cuban Missile Crisis, that's just unique. Yeah, that's awesome. That's great. And then what was Pitolo's? Well, the
Coconut Bombs.
Coconut Bombs. That's right. Yeah, great nickname matchup. Got to shout that out. Both fighting at middleweight. And I just thought this was so fun because everybody essentially expected a Pitolo to come in here and strike. And he just
it was crazy.
The wrestling and grappling pressure, which is just, it was cool. I love whenever you can tell a fighter's been, working to round out their game.
Yeah, and like I thought that Pitolo had a great strategy as far as like he still landed some pretty good damage. I mean, it was a more low activity round than we thought it would be, but like he didn't take a lot of damage and like put some good shots on Marquez.
Yeah, 100% agree. I mean, so I assume you gave rounds 1 and 2 to Pitolo.
Yeah, and I thought that Marquez did a good job in the second round to reverse and get some nice ground and pound in, but then also like got essentially taken back down again, and Pitolo won the round just based on, I thought, control and overall damage.
Yeah, grapple control and takedowns, and exactly, I agree. So yeah, so going into round 3, Marquez was down 2 rounds to nothing and pretty much had to get a finish, and it was looking like this crazy thing, almost like the fight before where we're like, is the grappler going to get out-grappled? That's what it seemed like, and that's what everything was pointing to up until that point. But, man, round 3 was comeback season for Marquez, man. He pulled out that gorgeous anaconda choke and then proceeded. Looked
good in the third, too. Was unloading on Pitolo to set it up, like had him very hurt.
Yeah, man, I think it's fair to say Pitolo was definitely gassed in round 3. He almost had his own submission. Remember, he had was it a guillotine or it was a guillotine that he couldn't quite get his hands together on. Rogan was saying he should have gone palm to palm, and he probably would have got his own submission victory. But yeah, man, Pitolo, just like I said, close but no cigar, right? Like just at the very
so close. So his coach was so mad that happened.
Yeah, I mean, that's about as close as you can get to winning a fight without winning a fight, obviously besides the decision. But, I mean, he ended up getting submitted with a gorgeous anaconda choke by Marquez. Like Marquez the only portion of that fight he won was whenever he won the fight. You know what I'm saying? He was losing. And I mean, he looked great in the third. But, yeah, man, it's not often you see a fighter get dominated for 2 rounds and then come back and get the, submission victory in the third. So that's always fun when that happens. Marquez, he was actually favored to win the fight, minus 175, and he gets a performance of the night bonus too. And he also asked Miley Cyrus to be his Valentine.
Bro, what was his post-fight speech, like his interview? Like, it gave me a headache, bro, with the who paid him to talk about the Chiefs and shit.
I'll just say this, be this as it may, Miley Cyrus hit him back and was like, shave an MC in that chest hair and you got yourself a deal. So it's hard to say he didn't win the post fight. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, shout out Julian Marquez. His brother is the lead singer for this pretty sick band called Spine, actually.
That's what's up.
Yeah.
Shooting
Yeah,
your
because I was
shot.
talking about him at work last night, and my buddy goes, "Oh, I know him and his brother." And I was like, "Julian Marquez, you know Julian Marquez?" And he goes, "The Cuban," and I was like, "The Cuban Missile Crisis." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah." And I was like, "What?" So he explained to me his brother Antonio, I think, is lead singer for this band that's apparently really good. And he was like, "Yeah, they've used to tour, like he used to be on their tours and stuff." And so met him through that, and like, yeah, it was just like, damn, small world.
No, for sure, for sure. I gotta say though, and it's hard to take it away from him. Do you think this one deserved a performance of the night bonus? I mean, it was a sick comeback, but I
It's
think
almost
there
like,
were
but
better
you won by this.
performances.
Yeah, it's almost like you won by the skin of your teeth, and it's like, should I reward that you saved yourself? Like, did maybe Poliani Viana deserved that? You know what I mean?
Well, no, Pauliana Viana did get one.
Oh, who?
So
Well,
it
yeah,
was
no, because there's only 3 finishes on the card tonight, right? Well,
yeah,
4.
there
Yeah, but
were
that's right. There's just 4.
so it was spoiler alert, it was Usman.
Well, yeah. It's gonna be the 4 finish. It'll be Marquez, Usman, Hernandez, and
And
Viana, right?
no, it was Gutierrez. Oh no,
So
I'm tripping. It was Pauliana Viana. It was Hernandez, Anthony Hernandez for getting the upset
yeah,
over Vieira, Marquez, and Usman.
yeah. So the 4 finishes. I mean, it just made sense.
Yeah, all right, fair enough, for sure. But I'm just saying, the next guy I thought performed really well. But I'm big. Let's get into it, man. We got Ricky Simone versus Brian Kelleher. Simone's the minus 250 favorite, and Kelleher coming in at plus 195. And man, Simone is a motherfucking problem.
Yeah, this was a fun fight too because Simone called out Kelleher after his last fight, called him Baldy, funny, I mean that's his name on Twitter anyway. So a little sportsmanship, gamesmanship there before. But man, Ricky Simone might be a problem.
Yeah, well, and the thing was, man, they brought him in saying he was a problem, and they put him in to get some killers. He took some L's, but now certain fighters come back like an L can either make or break a fighter, man. We've seen it happen, multiple times, and he seems to be the guy that kind of just approached it the right way, coming off those L's, and just kept working. And now he's turning into the fighter that they kind of thought he would have been a little early on, but maybe they gave him a little bit too much too soon,
Right, yeah, exactly right. And I think he's brought his game up to the point where he doesn't take a bunch of damage when he gets in on shots and gets these takedowns and stuff. And early in his career, he'd be, fighting for those takedowns, but he'd be eating so much damage that he couldn't finish because it's like at a point you want to stop taking elbows to the side of the head, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, man, and it's like I like how violent his movements are. Like he does everything like almost like a thrashing type movement. Like it's nothing's like a slow, gradual. Like sometimes certain wrestlers, it's more of like a grinding, gradual. He's a very explosive. I said he almost thrashes around like a fucking wild animal caught in a trap whenever I don't know. It's interesting. I love it. It's great on the eyes. It's entertaining. And like I said, he manages to make a wrestling style still very violent and active and explosive.
Absolutely. And dude, the cut he opened up with the elbow in the ground and pound around one was huge. That cut
Yeah.
was crazy.
Yeah, man. Like I said, it's that's what I was talking about. Almost like a thrashing around, almost like when an alligator bites into something and shakes. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just kind of that thrashing.
Ricky the alligator,
moment.
Simone.
Yeah, that thrashing moment, that thrashing motion. It just happened so fast. Like nobody knew how the cut opened up. Remember, they had to go back
Yeah,
and
they had to
have
go
the
back
guy
and
in the
check
truck, because it could have been any number of things because so much was going on. But yeah, round one. I mean, Simone, right? Can you even talk about a Simone round without talking about pressure, takedowns? That's
And ground
just
and pound.
in ground and pound. The old Simone, that's the recipe for his success. He has the path to victory, and he fights on his terms, and you gotta love that.
It's like a young Clay Guida, honestly.
Yeah, man, true that, because he's definitely not scared to get hit either, but he's also not. He's not really, like you said. He's channeled that from being reckless to being aggressive, and there is a fine line,
Well, in the second round, he hit a hard head kick and still finished the takedown.
Yeah,
I think it's all starting to click for him. I feel like in the last few fights we've seen him, he's just putting it all together. Like he's becoming a more complete fighter, and just I don't know. I like where he's at. I really like where he's at. I scored the second round to him, of course. It was just more of the same in the second. And then in the third, I thought Kelleher looked his best in the third, but it still wasn't even close to him getting the round.
Yeah, man, I feel you. And also I think it was really interesting. This fight took place at featherweight, but both of these guys traditionally fight at bantamweight and plan to fight at bantamweight moving forward. So that's always interesting. So it's really
I wonder if they just both didn't want to make the cut or something. I wonder if they had like a gentleman's agreement.
I think it was a fairly late replacement fight, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay.
They didn't announce this that many weeks ago. Maybe. I mean, Simone literally just fought like 2 weeks ago, so I bet that's what it was.
That's probably what it was.
Yeah.
That they just were like, hey, you guys just meet at 45.
Yeah, for sure, man. And I'm sure Kelleher wasn't complaining about not having to drop the extra 10. I got to say, though, so it does make this projection forward interesting. Because whenever you're projecting Simone forward, you're projecting him against bantamweights, which
and bantams, which he's that's why I was saying at the very start, he's gonna be a problem.
Yeah, man.
I think with his style and strength, he's gonna be a problem at 35.
Because like I said, most of the bantamweights that you think of in your head when you think of bantamweights, you're thinking of strikers. I mean, I know I am. And
all like the top 5 or 6 of them, honestly.
And a guy like Simone could cause problems for this matchup wise, stylistic wise, and not to mention his intangibles. Like I said, I think Simone has the intangibles. The kind of shit that you just either have it or you don't. You know what I'm saying? Like he's a dog. Simone's a dog in the best way possible.
He's one of those guys that I wonder how high his ceiling is, but we know he has a high floor, if that makes sense. Like he's always going to give you a pretty elite performance, but I don't know if he's ever going to reach the top because he doesn't have like the combination of skills. True
that. Yeah, his striking is somewhat limited, but his game is all get out. I think a super elite striker, may be able to catch him on the way in. At least they better hope they do. You know what I'm saying? That's how it's going to be when he fights those elite strikers. It's like you better hope you catch him on the way in. Because once he gets his hands on them little guys, man, it's a long day typically. Yeah, so he gets to 30.
Like what do you think about O'Malley versus Simone? Or Cheeto Vera versus Simone.
That's what I'm saying, bro. I don't know. Like, they better catch him on the way in. Like, Cheeto better eat up his legs like he did O'Malley. And like he was doing against
who did it? Aldo?
Yeah, Aldo. Yes, thank you so much. And
I almost forgot too.
And then same thing with O'Malley.
Jose Aldo.
O'Malley better starch him and knock his head to Jupiter or else. Because like I said, if Simone gets his hands on O'Malley, I mean that's a long.
That's bad for O'Malley.
Yeah, man, that's real bad. So like I said, it just and you can say what ifs about grapplers versus strikers all day. That's why those matchups are so fun to make. But this is how we know for a fact this is how the UFC matchmakers work. Now they're definitely going to throw them strikers, right?
Right. They're going to test him. They're going to test him.
Yep, they're not going to give him somebody who's going to try to play into his strategy. Which, in a way, that's kind of what Kelleher is. Like Kelleher is known as a striker.
Striker with a good guillotine.
Yeah. So, I mean, that was supposed to be a good test. And, I mean, Simone dominated him. And I got to say, I was listening to a couple of, podcasts and stuff leading up to this fight that were saying that, Kelleher could be a sleeper pick. And I was thinking, man, I don't think so. And I got to say, it's not often I toot my own horn, but it's also not that often that I'm right about shit. This fight went exactly like how I envisioned it going in my head.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever I think of a Ricky Simone fight in my head, this is what I think.
This is exactly how you see it. So me and a buddy were talking about it, and I told him Ricky Simone should dominate the fight, aside from maybe getting caught in a guillotine. That's pretty much Kelleher's path to victory is to catch him in a guillotine, which Ricky Simone was very aware of, made sure that was never going to happen, and dominated the fight. 30-27, all 3 judges. We scored it the same way. I think it was the most straightforward fight of the night, to be quite honest.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I gotta say, I'm fairly happy with the judging last night. There's a few little weird scorecards you can kind of nitpick, but for the most part, I feel like nothing too squarely went down, which I like when we don't have to spend too much time talking about that or dying on hills. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. The tightest fight to score was probably the Phil Rowe and Gabe Green fight, and I mean, I don't think the wrong guy won in that. I think Gabe Green won the fight. So I think the judges actually were all in line with us last night. It was pretty weird. Pretty weird that we don't have at least one that we're a little questionable on.
Our hills are left unbloodied this week. But man, this next fight, bro, I gotta be real. This next fight presents a lot of like fun talking points and kind of projections moving forward, and also acknowledging the past too. And we'll get into that. But yeah, we got what some people think is like a washed up old vet, but he's only 29 years old. Calvin Gastelum, ranked 9 middleweight, coming in at a minus 225 favorite. Versus Ian Heinisch, the 15th ranked middleweight, plus 175 underdog. But he was a live dog. Like, literally before the fight started, Anik and Rogan were like, whoa, I don't know about that money line. Like,
Yeah, they said that, and I was like, wait, are you guys hating right now? Like, what do you, or do they know something we don't know? Here was my thing coming into this fight is like, Kelvin has a better skill set. Heinisch is a better athlete. But this all comes down to, does Kelvin Gastelum even want to fight anymore? Because in his last few fights, he's just looked like a shell. Like, he doesn't even want to be there. And, like, he talked about that in his post-fight interview about how, like, he was on that skid and, like, just really didn't really know what he wanted or how to break that skid.
Well,
So,
and we were talking earlier about it a little bit. We're talking about Ricky Simone bouncing back from losses, and then, like, certain guys like Connor, when they start losing, like, fight losses and losing streaks can make or break a fighters. And, I mean, like I said, I'm not a fighter, but I've been a part of football teams like that. I've been a part of football teams, we're 4-0. Oh, man, our shit don't stink, man. We're the best we're God's gift of football. And then you lose a game, somebody punches you in the mouth and you get embarrassed. Or like, what was the year we lost at homecoming, I think, after when we were undefeated? And it was
Charlotte
like,
sophomore.
Yeah, man. And then it's just like, it kind of, things go off the rails. Things can, doubt creeps into your mind, man. Like the doubt creeping into your mind can sink a ship, and that applies to team sports, but I imagine it also applies to these individual sports as well.
Yeah, and I will say, like, responding to a lost streak is way different than responding to a singular loss. Because, like, if you remember when we lost to Broken Arrow, we all said to each other, we could have beaten that team, we should have beaten that team, and then the next week, 70-3. Sorry, Muskogee. So it's just like, For Gastelum, that gets to be a dangerous position 3 in a row, because it's not like you start having those bounce back emotions like, oh, I should be here, I should have done better, I could, or I like, in his mind, he could have won the fight and should have won the fight. It starts to creep into that doubt where it's like, am I losing my passion to do this?
Or just how good am I?
Fight, yeah, like, is my skill set fading? And then that makes you probably want to question, like, do I want to do this, right? Like, you're probably right. The first question is my skill set still on this level?
Bro, like, imagine fighting a guy like Adesanya, who's just, like, on God-tier striking level.
To a decision in 5 rounds, and it's one of my favorite fights of all time.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's why I wanted to bring up the past a little bit, because people forget that he gave Adesanya essentially his toughest fight ever. But imagine,
absolutely.
But imagine doing that and you still lost. Like, you fought about as good as you could have fought and you still lost. Like, that could create a space for doubt to creep in. Like, well, damn, does it matter how hard I try or how good of the game plan I have? Like, can I just, like, if I can't break through, I can't break through. But anyway, let's get into the actual fight. Because Kelvin Gastelum, like I said, this was essentially a fork in the road for his career. A lot of people were assuming that if he lost, that he was going to be out of the UFC. And I think it's also fair to assume that's probably what the UFC wanted. Like, if the UFC could have had their way, like, do they want to build this young new lion off the net and send, they can kind of kill 2 birds with 1 stone. They get a young up-and-coming prospect, and they kind of get to push Gastelum out the back door, and, don't let the doorknob hit you in the ass. So I think
it was a lot of sports psychology in this fight, to be quite honest. Like, this was a big mental warfare kind of a fight for both guys, because for Heinisch, it's like, well, not too much for Heinisch, but it is his shot to, like, be in the top 15 and, like, maybe crack the top 10. Like, it's kind of his make or break moment.
Oh, yeah, especially for definitely, without a doubt, the biggest stage he's ever fought on. And that alone is a mental obstacle and involves some sports psychology. So, I think you're totally on point in saying that. Also want to shout out San Jose. I never knew Kelvin Gastelum was born in San Jose. So, shout out. That's
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, that definitely makes me like him more. So, I got to say, man, I came out of last night liking Gastelum, like, a lot more, which it's obvious to say when a fighter breaks a 3-fight skid. But I'm saying that the fact that he's from San Jose, he looked good. He kind of stuck a wrench in the UFC's plans to push him out the back door. I don't know. There was a lot to like about last night. Like I said, and it was another fucking example. I don't know. Something was in the water last night where grapplers were getting out-grappled by the guy that was supposed to strike.
Yeah, and Kelvin talked about that afterward as well, that he had gotten back to his wrestling recently, and I think that's a core part of him doing so well.
Yes.
But we can go ahead and jump into it. I mean,
Yep.
early on, Heinisch got that immediate takedown, started working for some submissions. Gastelum did a good job to defend him. And then, honestly, Gastelum kind of started to take over after that initial flurry from Heinisch and just kind of technically was more sound and beat him in that round, I thought.
Oh, and those huge takedowns, man, those slams. Round one, Gastelum had 3 takedowns. And I thought, like I said.
Wow, was it 3?
Yeah, he got 3, man.
Wow.
Yeah, man.
For some reason, I thought it was only 2. That's crazy.
So like you said, that initial little flurry, Heinisch looked pretty good, but he ended up pretty much getting dominated. Not a ton of damage, but and then in round 2, kind of said more of the same. Kelvin had the takedown. He was winning the clinch positions. He was winning a lot of the grappling transition and scrambles. Like he said, man, and then Heinisch came into this. It was so funny because, like, once again, like I said, Anik and Rogan were like, "Oh, I don't know about this money line." Gastelum struggles with strong wrestlers.
Do you think John Anik bets on the fights? Because he talks about those lines so fucking much that it's almost like, Anik, are you throwing cash on this? Because there's certain commentators that do that for sure. Like Brent Musburger, there's been plenty of times where, like, I've heard him commentate a football game. It's like a 17-point spread. Team gets up by like 19. He's like, and that was a pretty bad field goal for some of those viewers at home. And it's like, okay, Brent.
Viewers at home, yeah, for sure, aka your wallet. Yeah, no, I feel you, man. That's definitely interesting. I don't know, but man, like I said, I don't know. They were high on Heinisch, and even Heinisch in the, they do the little lead up to the fight, little hype videos, whatever. He was like, "Oh yeah, Gastelum's he has problem with guys like me that can wrestle," and that's what everybody was saying. And then Gastelum just shut everybody up and out wrestled him. He out wrestled him like pretty dramatically.
Yeah, I mean, I thought Kelvin did a great job in the second of, like, essentially neutralizing the athleticism by just being a better grappler.
Yeah.
It's a great way to neutralize athleticism. Khabib's shown that his whole career. Not saying he's not athletic, but guys that are hyper athletic, he literally just grabs, puts against the fence, and is like, be athletic with your back on a wall.
Yeah, man, and Heinisch was the larger man too, and like I said, everybody was just hyping up Heinisch's wrestling. So yeah, I mean, pretty much the story of this fight was Gastelum out wrestled the wrestler and beat him at his own game, which I said was kind of the theme of the whole night.
And Gastelum has really, really, really good hand speed. Like, his hands are fast. Now, how'd you score the third? I thought the third got a little more interesting.
Yeah, I literally said it was Heinisch's best round, but I still gave it to Gastelum. I mean, he had multiple takedowns, and I think he came out in most of the scrambles in a better position. I think Heinisch, it was Heinisch's best round, but just close but no cigar, just not quite enough to win the round. But I think if Heinisch would have fought the whole fight like he fought, in round 3, I think, potentially different story, maybe a different outcome. But I had a Gastelum 30-27.
I felt like it was a coin flip round, and I honestly just didn't even write my score. I just wrote, ask you how you score it, because, like, I seriously was 50-50. But at that point, I also thought to myself, well, Gastelum's up 2-0, so it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, all of that is true. I'm on board with that. But so what gets interesting here is, so what's next for Gastelum, right? Because he always has in his back pocket that he gave Adesanya the most problems. Like, that's like, I mean, it's kind of a moral victory, but hey, I mean, nobody else can really say that. And so what I'm saying is he's only 29 years old. He's been to the mountaintop, and he's been, on a 3-fight skid. He's number 9. He just ranked 15. So he beat 15. So it's hard to, move him up too much. But
who's ranked, like 7, 8, or 10? I could see any of those fights.
Yeah, I wonder is like Vettori in that range?
I think Vittori's a little higher. I think Hermanson. I mean, a Hermanson rematch would be cool for the simple fact that
Gastelum lost to Hermanson, right?
With a heel hook in 20-something seconds. So it's kind of one of those things,
right?
like you caught me. Like, let's run this back and let's have a real fight.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mad at that at all. I wouldn't be mad at that at all for sure. Because those guys are kind of in similar.
And Hermanson's coming off an L2 Vettori at being ranked 4, so he has to be at like probably 7 or 8. So I think that's probably a good matchup.
No, so I do like our matchmaking, but what he called for, I thought was pretty interesting, and he is kind of credentialed enough to make it not ridiculous. He said that he didn't call out Whitaker or Costa, but he said that if anybody backs out, he'll be the substitute. Which
which I liked.
In this COVID time, I do like, because I mean that's a very realistic possibility more than ever. And also, like I said, kind of you couldn't just throw anybody or like a young prospect or you know what I mean? It needs to be a credentialed guy who's kind of been there, done that, and can't it wouldn't be out of line to stick him in a cage with one of those guys. And I mean, I think Gastelum Costa is a fun fight. I don't know. I think Whitaker probably pieces him up pretty good, and I mean you could say Costa might piece him too, but I think new wrestler Gastelum versus Costa, I think that's a fun fight if, God forbid something happens to Whitaker.
Well, who are the top 5 middleweights outside of Adesanya? It's got to be Costa, Whitaker's one, and then probably Costa and Till,
Vettori,
Holland.
Yeah.
That's probably got to be it, right? Like those are the guys.
I think so.
I don't know who's going to be at 6, and then you probably have
guys like
Hermanson, floating there on 7 or 8. You also have Gastelum at 9. So middleweight, he's got some real. Like I think he needs one more fight somewhere between 6 and 10, just to kind of like put himself up at the top. And then any of those guys up there is a fun fight. Like him and Darren Till, that's a fun ass fight.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's game and he's known for his striking. But like I said, this new and improved wrestling and kind of refocus on wrestling, I think could like potentially, I know I'm like being like optimistic here or just like I'm saying, this is like the ceiling, not the floor. The ceiling would be is that he's kind of like a reinvented, kind of goes on like an Ortega run, right? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, no.
What about him? What about him and Brunson?
It'd be a good fight. I mean, I think that's right about the level that he needs.
I think Brunson is 7 and Hermanson's 8.
Yeah. So they said, is he back? And I think it almost is like, well, what do you mean by back? Like, is he going on a title run, or is he a top 10, middleweight that's not on his way out of the UFC?
I could see for Gastelum 2 more wins and he's in a title shot.
Yeah, especially because of where the middleweight division stands. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these guys have already
and if Adesanya is still champion, then he just needs new challengers, and who wouldn't want to see them run that back?
No, exactly.
With the history.
Or either way, because if Adesanya moves on and doesn't defend the 185 belt, then that opens up a whole, that opens it up as well. So it's kind of either way. There's plenty of opportunities there. But I agree. Yeah, another top 10 win. And we can really start seeing, start really getting optimistic about what's next for Gastelum. But, yeah, man, we can keep it pushing because this next fight was pretty goddamn interesting as well.
Yeah, fun fight. Macy Barber and Alexa Grasso. I was really surprised Macy Barber was the underdog. I mean, obviously it kind of came to fruition as to why, but, I mean, I thought she just had a way better skill set than Alexa Grasso. Alexa Grasso impressed me last night. Macy Barber plus 100. Alexa Grasso minus 125. Now, the rankings, McGee, and you probably had to hate this because Macy Barber was ranked 10 and Grasso was ranked 15, so the odds didn't really make sense.
So it wasn't necessarily the rankings, McGee. I get what you're saying. Yeah, typically that would bother me. But not only that, like almost everybody I was listening to, like yourself, really liked Barber going into this fight too. And all I was hearing was Barber, Barber, Barber. So if anything, that's what kind of was interesting because it seemed like the public was on the side of Barber, but Vegas was on the side of Grasso, and like, as they say, those casinos didn't pay for themselves.
Yeah, Vegas knows what they're talking about most of the time. This is women's 125 flyweight, which, like we always talk about, man, not a deep division by any means. I mean, Grasso's 27, Macy Barber's 22. Both these girls are in the infancy of their MMA careers, and they're in the top 15. Like, this division's just, it needs more people.
It needs more people.
But these girls were showing off some good skills, honestly.
Yeah, man. To put kind of the silver lining of the flyweight division being so thin is that it does make for these rapid ascensions. And it kind of does make, like, you can get overly optimistic when projecting flyweight, because like on men's bantamweight, you can have a sick ass win and like, yeah, dog, you're still not ranked. But like,
Yeah, poor Casey Kinney, man. He's put together like 3-4 wins over like good fighters in the UFC, and they're finally like, hey, here's Dominic Cruz, ranked number like 8, and it's like, holy shit.
yeah, no, exactly, man. So but in the flyweight division, it's like, oh, you beat one fighter, and you're top 15. So I don't know. Like I said, I'm just trying to put like a glass half full on how thin that division is. I got to say, Barber was coming off an ACL tear, and that ACL tear came in a loss to our least favorite fighter in the whole UFC, Roxanne Modafferi. So,
Dude, I'm sure that's why Modafferi got the win in that fight, is because that poor girl, tore her ACL. It's a blizzard outside. This is dope.
Oh, that's cool. I fucking, my dumbass looked out my window like, oh, really? Dope. Oh, man.
Sick.
But yeah, man, I gotta be real. Whenever I I was reminded that Barber lost to Modafferi, I was like, I definitely got to pull for Grasso. I can't be rooting for people out here losing to Modafferi. But man, anyway, we'll keep it pushing. Oh, I also got to say, man, I got to ask your opinion on this. I asked Nina, and she was picking up on the energy too. Well, you said, does Anik bet on the fights? I think my question I need answered is, does Anik smash the ring girls? Because, like,
dude, yeah, talking about nicknames and shit. I literally, like, he was like called her like GA or something like that, like, and I was like, wait. There's just a level of comfortability, man. I feel like there's been some wild nights with Anik and the ring girls. Bro, like him and tequila.
Tequila and mustache rides, bro.
Yeah, getting all frosty by the end of the night.
I don't know, because there's just a couple of times the way he says it, I looked at Nina and I was like, did you pick up on that too? And she was like, yeah, totally.
Like, would you want to be his wife listening to that? No.
Right? Yeah, no. So I don't know. I definitely had to throw that out there. I mean, listen, I would not insinuate anything against Anik's character. There just seems to be some familiarity, if we put it mildly.
I think it's hilarious. DC calls him JA now as well. Always calls him JA. Like, hey, good call, JA.
That's fire. That's so fire, man. The legend of Anik grows. But man,
absolutely.
Once again, though, bro, like the theme of the night was grapplers getting out grappled, and I think we sit by the alleged striker, and I think that fucking narrative applies to this fight as well.
Absolutely, and honestly, I'll say Grasso was cracking her with some strikes too.
Yeah,
like I thought Grasso dominated the first round.
Well, because Grasso's known as like a high-level Mexican boxer. I mean, everybody knows Mexico's a long tradition of producing, great boxers, and so she came in touted it, and so she has, like you said, exactly. She can throw some cracking punches. Just that's like a given. That's off top, but she surprised everybody, myself included, with her wrestling and her clinch. And her
grappling defense too, like her ability on the feet to like disengage and get back to striking. I was impressed with Grasso, man. I was very impressed.
She's very well rounded.
Yeah, she's obviously improved her skill set a lot from the last time she showed up, and somehow Vegas knew that, and I just want to know how.
Yeah, that's a good point. But yeah, man, Grasso, I gave Grasso 1. I gave Grasso 2. I gotta say, in round 2, Barber.
She almost got that rear naked.
Shots. Well, and also that Barber landed some big shots too as well. Like just in round 1, Barber didn't really do much good at all, and in round 2, she finally started to get something going.
Yeah, Barber started to find her striking range, which a little too late, I thought, but that did carry into the third. I actually scored the third for Barber. I thought she started getting the better of Grasso.
Me too.
So we all agree with the judges again. 29-28, 3. I mean, that was how the judges scored it for Grasso. And we did too.
100%, and I think, and it is kind of a little bit unfortunate for a fighter like Barber coming off a major injury, because how often do we see a fighter, it's their first fight back since a major injury, and it takes them almost a round and a half to get the ring rust off? You know what I'm saying? Like, we see it time and time and time again, and I think, I'm not trying to take anything away from Grasso, because like we said, she looked great, and she's obviously showed much improvement, but I feel a little bit bad, like I said. I feel like maybe if this was a 5-round fight, how Barber was coming on stronger. Or like I said, if Barber just would have had like a little bit of time to knock off the ring rust. I don't know. Like you said, if ifs and buts were cherries and nuts. But I don't know.
It did seem like ring rust, because as the fight progressed, she got stronger and stronger and stronger.
Exactly.
And stronger. So,
exactly.
I mean, I still have pretty big stock in Macy Barber moving forward.
She's 22
Alexa
years
Grasso,
old.
I have a lot of stock in, though. I'm big on Alexa Grasso moving forward. If she keeps improving at that rate,
Oh yeah, and I mean, to be quite frank, it wouldn't shock me if these fighters paths cross somewhere down the line again in a rematch, only for a couple of different reasons. A, Barbara's 22 years old, so she ain't going nowhere. You know what I'm saying? Even if it's
Yeah.
a few years down the line, she'll still be like, that's still an option. And B, just like as we've alluded to, just ad nauseum, is just how thin the flyweight division are. Like eventually, it's very easy to see a scenario where their paths cross again and they fight again. But also, it's important to know Grasso is a former strawweight, and a lot of people were wondering if she was going to be able to be strong enough to be a flyweight. And I think she proved that answer is yes, and that she was saying that she feels so much better fighting at flyweight, and she says that she's essentially the same size. She just isn't killing herself in the weight cut, which
I think it's a good decision, man. I think it's a good decision. Rogan talks about that a lot. That is cutting the extra 10 pounds worth it or not? So
all right, and then real quick before we move on to this dope ass main event. So I have 8 through 14 women's flyweights. Tell me who you want next for Grasso, and maybe even who you want next for Barber if you want.
Cool, yeah.
So we got 8 Jessica I, 9 goddamn Modafferi somehow, 10 was Barber, 11 is Andrea Lee, 12 Alexis Davis, 13 Tyler Santos, and 14 Antonina Shevchenko.
I would love to see Tyler Santos and Macy Barber lock it up.
Okay.
And I would also see who'd you say was it 10?
10 was Barber last night. So
who's 11 then?
So 11 is Andrea Lee, and like I said, 9 is Modafferi.
Yeah, I'd like to see Grasso and Lee. Grasso and Lee.
Grasso and
Lee.
Okay.
Because Lee's a really strong grappler. Like she's super swole, and I just think that would be a good test of Alexa Grasso's grappling development.
Fair enough. I want to say, didn't Jessica I just have to pull out of a fight recently? I want. She
just fought JoJo Calderwood.
Oh, she did. She won that, right?
No, she lost.
Oh, she lost it. That's why I think. See, the reason why it's not necessarily that I want to see her fight either one of these people. I just think that she deserves to be ranked higher than both of these people. I just think it's whack that is 8 and Modafferi is 9. I don't want to see her fight Modafferi. Obviously, I hate watching Modafferi fights. But if Grasso could just snatch up that 9 ranking and send Modafferi out the door at the same time, kind of like they were trying to do to Gaston, we said, I don't want to watch it, but I look forward to the next day after it, talking about how maybe, I don't know. That division's so weird and so kind of not fun to match make. Also, it wouldn't make too much sense. It'd be a little bit like the Bilal Muhammad call out, except for just a way bigger name. Grasso, Antonina Shevchenko, I wouldn't be mad at because you get the name of the Shevchenko, even though it's not obviously the Shevchenko, and then it's it's a relatively winnable fight. I don't know. That wouldn't be a bad move. I feel like career-wise, getting a win over essentially the name and the ranking, getting another top 15 win. I don't know. Career-wise, wouldn't be necessarily the worst move. But yeah, I mean, like I said, Grasso, the high-level boxing, and if her wrestling's as good as it looked the other night, I mean, you could see a quick ascension because none of those women we just listed are unbeatable fighters that are not in her class. You know what I'm saying? She's right there with every single one of those fighters we just listed.
Absolutely. I mean, we'll see. It's like you said, like we always talk about, weird division. I mean, who the fuck knows how these actually I don't know how the fuck these. If you asked me to rank 7 through 15 in the women's flyweight, I think I could just toss them around in a jumbler and slap them back on the board every time, and it'd probably be close to correct.
Yeah, and also those women would win on different nights. If they fought each other.
That's what I'm saying. I could jumble them, throw the rankings down, boom, pick the rankings up, jumble them again, throw them down, boom. I'm never gonna have a problem where I rank them because I feel like they're all could win on any given night.
Yeah, for sure, man. And then now, I mean, the main event.
What a main event! Oh man, I was getting tired, and then I saw Usman walking out, and I was like,
"Yeah,
Usman is a different monster."
He is, man, and exactly what he wanted is exactly what he got as far as when it comes to me, because here I am right now putting respect on his name. Like
Me
here
too, bro.
like,
Me too. Top 5 pound for pound, no question.
like you're not gonna hear any more snoozman jokes coming from me. You're not gonna I'm
Marty
willing to
Fake
say,
Newsman.
yeah, like I think that I'm willing, because for so long, me and so many other Americans, so many other UFC fans were mad that we feel like he robbed us of $70 on that Masvidal fight. It was a
Hell
boring
yeah, he
fight.
did. And he had a broken nose, so he planned to make it a boring fight.
Yes, and I'm willing to concede now, especially because the Covington fight was entertaining as fuck. This fight was entertaining as fuck. I'm willing to say that the Masvidal fight was the exception, not the rule. Like, it was a one-off. Like, I don't think
I agree.
Usman is a boring fighter. I'm mad about my $70, just like y'all are mad about y'all's $70. But I think giving us 2 highlight knockouts or great performances in a row at following that snoozer, I think I'm willing to put the snoozer behind me and not attach that to his name forever.
I mean, he'll have to get one more, but like, yeah.
Fair enough. And I also think that, and this is why I'm not we'll get to this after. Let's get into this actual fight, because this is
let's break down the fight.
Yeah, this is one where
is a
round
fun
by
one.
one actually matters. So we have the welterweight champion Kamaru Usman coming in as a -265 favorite, fighting Gilbert Burns, the #1 contender, who was a +215 underdog. Obviously fighting for the welterweight belt.
The biggest storyline is that they're former training partners.
I mean, for years and years, like essentially good friends.
Very good friends. Their kids know each other. It's crazy.
And I gotta say, coming into this fight, I never like stuck my neck out there and said that like, oh, Gilbert Burns has this in the bag. But I gotta admit, I thought the money line was like a pretty like skewed. I was like, Jesus, really? 265 for Usman? I was like, I understand Usman being favored. I do. I didn't expect Burns to be favored. But I was thinking maybe more like closer to like maybe 165 as opposed to 265. But once again, them casinos didn't build themselves. You know what I mean? And
it's crazy though, man. Like, you'd think for training partners that you would just expect a very close fight, but like, the thing I've been saying the whole time leading up to this fight is like the guys at Sanford MMA or Black Zillions who they used to fight for, those guys know. Those guys know. They would see him in training every day, and Usman alluded to that after.
We say they know, but like they also are humans with bias and you know, like rooting interests. You know what I'm saying? Because every podcast I saw was like, oh, Burns' camp. So, or, you know, the former both of their camp all said Burns used to win in sparring. That's what, I mean, I don't know how many, or maybe it was just clickbait, but I don't know how many of those fucking videos I clicked on this week. And so what
you know what I think, though? I think that might be true. And I think going to Trevor Whitman is the reason Usman won. And I mean, I think it's directly apparent as well. And I'm a little thrown off by it, honestly, because I'm pretty sure from what I heard and the way Gilbert Burns looked in the octagon after, the way he reacted to that loss, he fully expected to win. Like, I think he's gotten the better of Usman a good amount of times.
Damn, I love that. I think that makes a lot of sense, bro. And so you can't just before the opening bell. Usually say from the opening bell. Before the opening bell, they had the most intense stare down, and it had to simply be like separated by security. And it was funny because, you know, my wife Nina, she was watching with me, and she was like, "I thought they were friends. I thought they were friends." And it's like, you almost have to do that extra shit to get over the fact that it's a friend. You know what I'm saying? Like, they almost had to get themselves to a place.
Almost like the challenge. Like, they had to challenge each other right there in the moment. Like, oh, you want this? And then Burns is like, yeah, I want that. And he's like, come take it then. Yeah. And then they like lock eyes, and it's like we're about to do battle for it. And you throw that friendship out right in that moment. You're like, fuck that. Like, this is my belt. And Gilbert Burns is like, I want that belt.
Yeah, it made a lot of sense to me. Some people might have been like, where did that come from? I thought they're friends. But to me, it's like, in order to get yourself to a place where you can even hit your friend, you almost need that extra shit. Because Usman's not known for that type of behavior, and like, you know what I mean? So I think it caught a lot of people off guard. But then I was like, no, I get it, what they're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, intense. The stare down was intense as fuck. Like, as if you're not already excited for the main event. You have that dope ass stare down. I stood up. I was like, let's fucking go. I was like, man, I'm no longer bummed I paid money for this fight. Like, at that moment.
Yeah, I bought it too.
Yeah, man. Speaking of, I literally tried to stream it, and the streaming place was like asking for my credit card. And I was like, I'm not putting my credit card into like a pirate website. Like that seems like a
Dana's
terrible
shutting
idea.
them down.
Seriously, dog. But anyway, so let's get to the actual X's and O's. Because round one, believe it or not, for the people that didn't watch the fight, that are just like watch the highlights or the recaps or whatever, round one could not have gone any better for Burns. Like it's literally how you.
I thought it was great for
Burns.
Burns.
Phenomenal for Burns.
Dropped him hard in the start. Was winning the trades. Was
literally whooping his ass. Like it was literally just like rocking Usman. Like it was one of the Usman was landing, but Usman was like essentially trading jabs for power punches. And like when Burns was landing, it was literally stunning.
It was hurting Usman.
It was hurting.
It was crazy.
Usman. Yeah, like I literally stood up, and then the whole first round, I was like, "Is this one gonna be quick? Is this one gonna be quick? Is this gonna be?" I don't know, bro. Like it looked in round one that like, and scared's not the word. There's a difference between a fighter being scared and a fighter being hurt. Usman was hurt very, very badly, but as time
never
would go,
scared. He never scared. He kept
yeah.
re-engaging, but like he kept getting hurt in the first.
He kept getting hurt. Like he was wobbled like multiple times, and it's just like, I mean, just history would show. I mean, if you just go back and look at how many throughout all UFC fights, if a fighter gets wobbled more than one time in the first round, I mean, I bet the statistics are astronomical that he goes on to lose the fight.
Yeah, absolutely, and, absolutely.
Yeah,
which is crazy because Usman really just turned it on in the second. Well, how did you score the first?
So the first, I scored a 10-9 Burns, but I gotta ask
Me too. The strike numbers were crazy, but it was all due to those leg kicks on the ground.
Yes, and this is
which I'm not counting for shit.
When this transitions perfectly, what I was about to ask you. I thought I was screaming at Herb Dean. I literally was screaming.
Stand him up.
Herb Dean Usman
clearly wouldn't go to the ground with him.
Yes.
Burns clearly wanted to stand up.
I thought Burns clearly wanted to. I thought. See, I read it differently. I thought
Burns wanted to
inviting him to his guard. Yes.
Well, for sure. But then when Burns would try to stand up, that's when Usman would pressure him, and it's like, bro, if you're not going to let him up, but you're also not going to grapple him, like you got to make a choice. And finally, Herb Dean said, "Do something with it." But also, dude,
after like
I'm done with Herb Dean, man. I'm done with him. The way he stopped the fight was even whack too.
Because am I exaggerating, or was there literally not like 2 minutes of the first round where Burns was on his back and Usman was kicking him in his legs, and it totally skewed the significant strike numbers?
Yes.
But yeah, so I gave round one to Burns because I mean
I did too.
He was a nut away from finishing him, and yes, and damage, 100%. So we're on the same page there. But yeah, I was fucking screaming at my TV and like hitting myself in the face, like stand him up, what the fuck? But yeah, and then I mean in round two, it was literally a foil round. Like almost every word we can use to describe, just swap the names for our first round.
Super crazy. And Usman's jab started to wreck Burns. Like he started landing that hard straight jab, and it was like destroying Burns' face.
Yeah, and it was like I said, it was role reversal. And then out of nowhere, on round two, every time Usman hit Burns, it hurt Burns. Like he was he got multiple knockdowns, right, in the second round, if I'm not mistaken.
Like two or three, maybe.
2 or 3, he was hurting him, and they weren't all like, that's whenever I knew Burns was in trouble. Because whenever Burns was hurting Usman, it was with a power punch. Usman was hurting, which you expect. Usman was hurting Burns with a jab, like literally knocking him down with a jab. And it's just like, dog, like, I mean, if you can't eat a jab, then I mean, what happens when he connects a power punch? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Well, and we ended up seeing how that would go. But like for Burns, man, I think that is not at all what he expected. And I saw in the UFC embedded countdown with Usman, when he's training with Whitman. Whitman would do this drill with him where he puts a hula hoop around himself, and he keeps telling Usman that he has to bob and weave into the hula hoop, out of it, right? And he tells him every time you're inside this hoop, that's not your range. That's Burns' range. He's better there. You strike from outside the hoop.
Oh.
And so that became like, that was like what I saw happening in the second round and beyond, was that Usman was just keeping him on the end of the jab and punching him in the face and staying out of that range for hooks. He figured it out.
Yeah, he figured it out exactly.
That's
Usman,
what real champions do too.
Yeah, for sure. I am surprised that this fight spent essentially no time on the ground, really. I mean, it was
Usman wouldn't. He won't do it. He won't do it. And that's what people had said apparently from Sanford, is that like Burns could tap him at will.
Okay, yeah, because Burns, you could tell Burns was just like, come on down here, come on down there.
Well, I mean, he's a world champion jiu-jitsu guy at 160.
Yeah,
So
yeah, man. But man, super entertaining fight, which I knew this fight was going to be entertaining. My problem with this card, whenever I was complaining about this card, was never about the main event. It was essentially everything else. But so I knew this fight was going to be good, and it was good.
Did you have it 19-19 going into the third, or 19-18?
No, I had it 19-19. I don't think.
Okay, me too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Because, like I said, whatever it can't. The whole. I think round one could have been a 10 if Herb Dean would have stood him up and Burns.
Right.
And I'll be real, and I mean, this is the ultimate what if. This is the ultimate what if, and I'm really not putting too much stock into it, but it is kind of fun to think about. In the first round, when Burns had Usman hurt, but then he ended up on his back and they were doing the stupid-ass leg kick situation. If after about 5 or 10 seconds of that nonsense, if Herb Dean would have stood him back up.
And Usman doesn't get to go to his corner and get coached up on how to get out of that situation or how to fight the better fight. That's bad for Usman.
It's like if Burns lands like 2 or 3 more of those same shots that was hurting him in the first, I mean, like I said, ultimate woulda, coulda, shoulda, ultimate what if. Like I know it's just kind of nonsense conjecture, but that's what I couldn't kind of help but think. Like I don't know. Like I Herb Dean not standing them up. Like not only did it piss me off in the moment when I was watching it because it just made for dog shit television. Kicking the guy on his back's legs. Like nobody wants to watch that. It's not proving anything. Yeah. That's not advancing either fighter's cause. And so it pissed me off in the moment, but it also pissed me off now that I'm like kind of breaking it down and going back and looking back at it. Like, damn, like how much did that change the outcome of that fight?
Right. Yeah. In hindsight, now that we're talking about it, it's like that really fucked over Gilbert Burns.
It really did. Now, I still think Gilbert Burns is in a good place. Obviously, Kamaru Usman's in a good place. Now, Usman wins by TKO early in the third round. Like he essentially continues the ass whooping from the second round, essentially. Yeah. Just
the hardest straight jab drops Burns and then
the southpaw jab, though. It was a jab with
correct,
his right hand.
He started switching stances. You know why he did that too is he switched his power hand to his lead hand so he could do a power jab.
A power jab, and it fucking worked. He just knocked him down and then just finished him off. I mean, landed some heavy ground and pound. I mean, no, you said you had a problem with the stoppage, and I've seen other people online say they had a problem with the stoppage. Get into that.
It's not
real. It didn't jump off the screen.
No. It's not the timing. The timing of the stoppage is just fine. It's how Herb Dean crowds the fighter.
Okay.
Like, dude, he needs to – if he's going to call the stoppage, step in and stop it. But there was a point where Usman, if he had literally put his right arm up, would have hit Herb Dean in the leg. And it's like, dude, you're way too close.
Oh, and then it creates awkward moments like when those two girls stopped fighting.
Because Usman's like, you're so close, this has to be over. And then it's like, no, keep going. And it's like, just back up and let him finish it then.
100%. Yeah, no, Herb Dean has been driving me nuts. And I know, somebody out there is like, well, who are you to question Herb Dean? It's like, man, it's not me questioning Herb Dean as a man. It's me questioning his work that I'm seeing. You know what I mean?
Just work. It's not. We're not questioning if he has bad intentions or motives or wants a certain fighter to win or something. It's just being over technical about it. Like he's being too hands on. Like he's over officiating at this point, and he's controlling the outcome more than the actual fighters at points.
And just making mistakes at points.
Right, and that's a thing. That's a thing in football, in basketball. Anytime the refs are heavy on the whistle or heavy with the flags, that's people don't want to watch that. Like the Super Bowl, people were complaining, keep the flags in your pockets, let them play the game.
Yeah.
Let them fight the fight.
Regardless of sport, you don't want the post-fight talk to be about the ref. You want it to be about the players, a.k.a. the fighters. And exactly. And Herb Dean just inserts himself into every conversation. And he has so much impact on the fight. As opposed to Herzog and Smith. It's just they make things better, not worse. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. They complement the fight. Whereas Herb Dean kind of interjects himself in it. And it's like, come on now.
So I want to get into kind of our post-fight reactions and then the fallout from this fight. So
absolutely.
My first reaction, obviously, when Gilbert Burns was just falling in the ring, it was kind of tough to watch. I mean, not in
it was kind of tough.
I don't like seeing tough guys cry. That's not what I mean. just like it was just like you could feel it through the TV, man.
You could
like
tell it sucked. Yeah, you could tell it sucked.
Like it just like, I mean, anybody that's ever cried, like if you've never cried after a loss, you didn't love your sport. I'll put it that way. Like,
and the reality of it, aside from that too, is that he just fought one of his very good friends.
Yes.
And like just got like pieced the fuck up and like punched the fuck, like those were like real strikes they were throwing, obviously, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you gotta reality checks back in at the point that the fight's over and you're like, fuck man, that was like my good friend, and like we just beat the fuck out of each other.
Beat the fuck out of each other. You could tell it
and I didn't
Kamaru
get it.
Too. Yeah,
Kamaru was like about to cry whenever he got announced the winner.
Well, then it's like, what do you do from your career? It's like that Kamaru's not going anywhere. Like do you have to fight him again? Like almost like we were talking about with Gaston. Like, does my skill set, like, can I beat him? And I think I think Gilbert Burns will go back and watch the film and come away feeling better. Like, oh, I could have won that fight. Like I was a nut hair away from winning that fight. Like, he doesn't. I don't think he has anything to hang his head about. I thought he actually fought really well, and I thought, he did. He did good, man. I think he did good. I think there's a couple of things go different. He easily could have, not easily, but he could have found himself the victor in that fight.
And absolutely still a top contender at 170.
Yeah,
like, I think you give him someone. A big name still after this.
Yeah, man. And so I got to say, also, my next takeaway, this fight was not boring. And it kind of leads into what we were talking about before this breakdown. Like,
Usman.
I think we got to kind of bury this Usman kind of narrative. I think we really do. I think he's earned that. And this is coming from a guy, I've been pushing this Usman narrative for a long time now.
He finally did. I shouldn't say finally. That sounds terrible, but he deserves respect. And he said that in his post-fight interview. And I loved it that he actually got like a little pissed. He was like, "Put some fucking respect on my name." And that's like, yeah, we should. Like,
yeah.
He's really a top 5 pound for pound. Like, regardless of his weight, like he's a top 5 fighter in the entirety of the UFC.
There's another thing, like whenever he was saying like, "Put some fucking respect on my name," and then Joe Rogan's like, "Whoa, who's not respecting her name?" And then even Nina was like, "Yeah, who's not respecting him?" I was like, "Well, me, kind of."
Every talking head in the media that says that like, he doesn't put on good shows because he's so dominant and he just chooses the easy roads.
Yep. And I was like, "Well, he's talking to me, kind of, babe." Like, I'll it so yeah, respect. Here's your respect. Here's your name. I'm putting it on it, and 100%, man. Yeah, man. Usman's dominant. He's definitely starting to inch his way into the GOAT-ish conversation. No, the welterweight. For
welterweights, for sure, yeah.
100%. Also, Usman threw a little more kicks. I think that's also credit to Trevor Whitman in the new camp. And it sounds like he's going to stay up there, and like he's liking it in Colorado and stuff.
I think Whitman introduced a new level to his game. And honestly, he's training Colorado at the Olympic Training Center in Colorado Springs before, so he probably knows the Colorado area at least a little bit.
Yeah, and apparently him and Gagey are getting really tight. Like, they both just have nothing but praise for each other. And apparently they spar a lot.
Did you see the embeddeds? He was staying at Gaethje's house with him, and Gaethje was cooking all the food for him.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. No, but
Gaethje was like measuring his meals and doing all that for him. It was crazy.
I know. After the fight, Gaethje tweeted that Usman's the only man I've ever fought that gets stronger as the rounds go on. And he said, I've never, including myself, met somebody who worked like him. And just high praise. And then Usman was praising Gaethje. So apparently they're butt buddies now, which, I mean, that's iron sharpens iron, right?
Which leads to a nice storyline for the Gaethje Chandler fight in the future as well, because Chandler is an ex-teammate now of Usman.
Okay, I like that. So Usman gets the second longest win streak in UFC history behind Anderson Silva now at 13. And in the first in welterweight, because he passed George St. Pierre. Or did he tie him or pass him? He
passed him.
Yeah, so like most and I thought it was interesting to say, Usman, he didn't shy away from saying that he feels he's better than GSP. And there's two ways to look at that. Either there's one way to look at it like, oh, well, you're an athlete, you're supposed to have supreme confidence in yourself. Like how every NFL corner says they're the best corner, like that kind of mentality. Like you kind of
like when LeBron says like the debate's put to rest, like things like when they make little nods toward like these debates, like LeBron, Jordan, they make nods for themselves. Like, I expect you to do that. You should have the ultimate confidence in yourself.
Yeah, I like that he didn't golly gee whiz it. He kind of like, leaned into it a little bit, but in a very classy, respectful way. Like he didn't shit on GSP. I feel like he kind of went about it in a good ass way, and he went about it in a way of trying to coax him out of retirement. Like that was a chess play.
It was more so it's not that you're not great, it's just that I think I'm the greatest and you're one of the greats. That's kind of the way he like put it, and then was like, if you think you're the greatest, come prove it.
Yeah, and I think he was also alluding to the fact of like MMA has evolved since then, and it's like I'm
Correct,
doing
which
it
I agree.
now. Yeah,
I agree with him. Like, dude, do you think guys that played football in the 70s would mostly hold a candle to guys today? No, the fuck they wouldn't.
no, that's kind of the argument Usman was making too. Now it's not as big of a time gap, but it's also a sport that's evolving faster probably than any other sport. So I think
Right.
I think there's some like logic to the argument. It wasn't just braggadocio like a dick size contest. Like I think there was actually some thought put into the answer, and I think he legitimately feels that way.
If you wanted to say football from 64 up to 1990, the difference between those players, that's 26 years, same as the UFC's been around now. They've been around for 28. But point being, the difference in players at the U in the early 90s versus the guys in the mid 60s, big differences here.
100%. 100%. I also think it was cool that he did kind of bury the hatchet with Gilbert Burns. He said, "I love that guy." Like, you know, like that's cool. You know, I'm sure if they'll have to rematch it one day, you know, that just adds that much more to that narrative. I wonder if they'll take more of a McGregor-Poirier nice guy approach the second time around, or if they'll have to dig up that hatchet that they buried. I don't know. It'll be interesting, you know.
That'll be very interesting. Very interesting. I'm very interested to see how that comes to fruition and what that would be like if it does in fact happen.
And then now, kind of last but not least by any stretch, I want to get into Usman made it very abundantly clear that he wants the Masvidal rematch.
Masvidal in a camp. He wants him to have a real full training camp. That's important to note.
Like he called out Masvidal full on, and then he kind of somewhat threw out a loose little GSP, like, you know, we can make it happen.
I mean, that was like dragging the waters, but really I think the bait is out there for Masvidal.
Exactly. Now, I got to say, there is at least one fight, if not multiple fights, that I would rather see than a Masvidal rematch. And I think a lot of people feel the same way. I think a lot of MMA fans aren't clamoring to see that fight again, right?
I am. That's the one I want. That's the one I actually was texting a buddy yesterday about it, and he was talking about, is Usman one of the greatest, like with John Jones and shit. And I was like, whoa, calm down, not there yet. But when we started talking about it, and he was like, okay, well, what's Usman left to do? And I was like, he needs to beat Masvidal in a full camp, and then he needs to beat probably the winner of Leon Edwards Chimaev out of that like horse race to see who's going to be the young up and comer. And then he needs to probably just add one more defense against someone like Wonder Boy or someone that's like a completely variant type of fighter.
All right. I'm glad you said Wonder Boy, because that's kind of where I'm going with this. Like, and it's not like I don't get the Masvidal thing. I'm just worried, like, what if those two fighters just don't make for a good fight? You know what I'm saying? Like when you put those guys in the octagon, I said training camp.
Yeah, because it was so boring the first time.
So boring. That's my position I'm coming from.
But, and I'll say, I think this is true. Conor McGregor said it before as well. No two fights are ever the same. So for as much as that was a snooze fest, I think that leads it to be, it can't be as much of a snooze fest in the rematch.
Okay, and I totally appreciate that perspective. It's almost like I just don't even want like the possibility of a snooze fest to happen. Like it's almost how I feel right now about like a Tyron Woodley fight. Like I just, you know what I'm saying? Like I just
like imagine if you put Woodley and Maia in the cage against each other today. Like, oh.
Yeah, like and obviously I'm not saying Usman is on that level. I'm just saying like as far as level of excitement for that fight, like I don't know, this could easily not be fun to watch. And I think, and then while using those criteria of fun to watch, and also the criteria of the only guy that he hasn't beaten already, that's why I like rankings McGee-wise, giving the number 5 guy a title shot, while guys like Leon Edwards are out there and the whole kind of wild card of Chimaev, I get it. And it's probably not going to happen. It probably will not happen. But Wonder Boy wants it to happen, obviously. And I'm just saying from a, it's different, and B, could this be a lot more fun to watch just visually than the Masvidal fight? You know, because I don't know. But I could also see, you know, just Usman pushing Wonder Boy against the cage for 5 rounds too. You know what I
So
mean?
what are the top 5 rankings? It's obviously Burns right now at 1,
I have
and then
it
you
written
have
down.
Covington at 2, Edwards at 3, 5 is Masvidal. Who's 4?
4 is Masvidal, 5 is Wonder
Okay.
Boy.
Okay,
So
yeah.
that's what I'm
That's what I
saying.
thought it was. That's what I thought it was.
So I mean, that's why I think Masvidal, out of those names, is the fight I least like to watch. Maybe that's a hot take, but I think I'd rather watch the Burns rematch. I'd rather watch the Covington rematch. I wouldn't mind seeing Leon, because that would be a rematch too. But it was 8 fights ago, and Leon hasn't lost
9
since.
fights. 9 fights now.
9 fights, and Leon hasn't lost since. But also Leon, that ring rust factor. That ring rust factor makes me not want to see the Edwards fight immediately. If he can make the Chimaev fight happen, and that makes sense. But
I have the matchmaking figured out for this.
Okay.
Ever since they called off Chimaev Edwards, I'm pumped because that fight is a ruse. I'm fucking tired of them trying to make it. It's over. It's done with, right? They're targeting Covington Edwards. I agree. 2 versus 3. That's great, right?
Yep.
Let's get that popping off. Let's get Masvidal going ahead in a full camp, getting the Usman fight, whatever. Let's go ahead and give Chimaev Wonder Boy.
Chimaev Wonder Boy, that's fun. That's fun. That's
fun.
A nice,
and then for Burns, just let him wait for the winner, maybe of Chimaev Wonder Boy, and then the winner of Covington and Edwards gets the title shot. And then Masvidal just kind of gets to sit on the outside for a little bit because he's gotten 2 title shots and he can fuck off at that point if he doesn't get it.
100%. I'm not mad at that. I like the long-term view of that, and I like the kind of consolation prize of the Wonder Boy Chimaev fight. The immediate satisfaction. I don't know. Maybe I said I wasn't going to die on no hills this episode. I think I found one. I'm going to bloody a hill real quick that I don't want to see. I don't want to see Usman Masvidal 2, at least yet, because where there's bad blood, that fight will always exist. It has nothing to do with their rankings.
It's a good point.
You can do that whenever. You can do that when they're both old. You can do that whenever there's just literally nobody else to fight, and you just and then you start going through the rematches. I think I would still rather see a Burns rematch before I'd rather see a Masvidal rematch. I would rather see Masvidal Diaz rematch before I'd rather see Usman Masvidal rematch. I'll even go out on that limb.
Man, I don't know.
I don't know, bro. I
think you're poisoned by the snooze fest that the first one was.
I'm scarred for life, bro. I promise you. I admit that. I fully admit that's the logic I'm using for this hot take.
I get it. I totally get it. But I think it's the fight, man. I think Masvidal in the camp is a lot better.
Okay, I feel it. That's fun.
And Usman wants it. Usman wants it. And who are we to deny the guy that we just told everyone is a top 5 pound for pound ever? If that's what he wants, give it to him.
Yeah, for sure, man. And that's what I was actually texting a buddy before this too, talking about last night's fight, and they're kind of saying the same thing. How do you feel about Usman Masvidal? And literally what I responded was me personally, super against it. However, exactly what you just said, the champ typically gets to kind of call the shots, and they have
especially when they're that level of champ.
Yes, hella leverage.
If it's Peter Yan calling shots, he can fuck off. But Usman, he gets to call some shots.
Now, are you down for kind of one more little topic real quick, little debate topic real quick?
Yeah, what you got?
What are your feelings? And I feel like it's weird nobody's talking about it. I feel like the talk will gain steam with time. With these super, super elite, pound for pound, kind of entering the upper echelon conversation, is there zero talk of Usman maybe like a champ situation?
Dude, I'm so happy you asked me this because this is what I told my buddy the other day. Is he was asking me how does he become pound for pound greatest, and I was like, he has to win another weight. It can't just be your one weight. I was like, that's Khabib's flaw in that whole argument is that he never transcended any other weights. He was dominant at one weight. But to dominate men at different weight classes shows that you have a more dominant skill set in mind than those guys, regardless of the weight, essentially.
And it's if John Jones has acknowledged that fact, then sorry, Kamaru, it applies to your ass too. Adesanya's
acknowledged it. McGregor acknowledged it.
Yep.
Nunez, DC. I mean, GSP, all the greatest of all time have always tried to jump weights.
So let me ask you this now, because there's essentially 2, maybe 3 options as far as cross weight class fights. And obviously this is kind of a pipe dream, fighting Khabib, you know. I don't know. I think Khabib would probably go up as opposed to Usman going down. I don't know how you feel about that. Or no, I guess to be champ, Usman would have to go down. You're right.
He can't go down. He cannot. It has to be 85. He has to beat Izzy.
Okay.
Or Izzy leaves the division, then he can beat the next guy.
I think that's more likely. I think that's the path.
He'll never beat Izzy. He'll never beat Izzy.
No, and I think that might be the path of least resistance. Yeah, like if Izzy vacates or goes on to try a heavyweight against John or anything along those lines, then I think Usman versus
Robert Whittaker's gonna have something to fucking say though.
But I'm saying
Robert Whittaker's sick, bro.
What if they fought for the interim?
I think Robert Whittaker's gonna have something to fucking say to Kamaru Usman about coming into 85. Like, I think the speed at which Robert Whittaker strikes, how game he is, his chin, and also his power and his size, that Usman's going to get in some trouble. I think 170 is just like Khabib. I think Usman's cut for 70.
Perfect. Yeah, no,
like,
I
perfect
agree.
fit.
Because he's only like, what, 5'10", 5'11", right? He's not super tall. Yeah, so that's why I think he'll struggle against some 85ers. Like all the top 85ers are over 6 foot.
Right, because his reach gets negated and his strength gets negated.
Yeah. I think. Do you think that I think his wrestling holds up against those top 85?
Absolutely. And his skill set's still there. I just think the intangibles. I think whenever he's not the guy with the better intangibles, he needs those along, because his skill set might be better than the guys at 80 or at 70, but at 85, if it's only slightly better and he's not the longer man or the bigger man, it's gonna be problems for him. I think, just an overall physique.
Yeah, I feel it. That's why my gut instinct leaned more 55 than 70, just based off his frame. Like, I mean, 55 rather than 85, because of his frame.
But Usman's so stacked up top that, like, he's got skinny legs, man. I swear he's cut for 70. Like,
no,
he's not a guy that's going to jump weight classes. It's going to be, I don't think he'll ever do the 85 thing, unless he thickens out his base over time.
Yeah, or maybe if they do some kind
But his knees are so bad he
DNF
can't do lower. His knees are so bad he can't do lower body lifting. He can't even run on a track. He has to swim for his cardio.
That's right. Yeah, you're right though. So like, I don't know. It's kind of like I said. And there's probably a reason why more people aren't talking about it, because there's not a super easy answer or a plug and play, or like a guy like Izzy or John Jones that has the height. Yeah, he may just be like the welterweight. So is he your welterweight GOAT?
I think he needs one more defense just so he beats Woodley's record for welterweight defenses with the title, and then he has it for me.
Okay, cool. Fair enough, man. Good ass episode, bro. I really appreciate your time, man.
Episode 35, Slim reaping them.
Episode 35. Yeah, good point. The KD episode. But yeah, man, you can go subscribe on YouTube, and you can find us wherever you get your audio podcast as well. Support the movement, share our videos, like our videos, subscribe on YouTube. That helps us the most. And yeah, we'll be coming out with clips throughout the week, and then we'll be back next weekend. I think next weekend's that Lewis Blade.
The heavyweight start of the heavyweight tournament. Well, second leg, because Volkov started it off.
True.
But
yeah, man.
Lewis Blades, baby.
Have you seen the prelims for that card?
No, I haven't.
I think literally it's like 9 fights deep or something. It's insane. Now, obviously, chances are a few of those will fall off, but dude, it's like literally. I thought it was like a fluke. You have to like keep scrolling.
I will have to go check it out. I'm gonna have a lot to break down. Damn,
we'll have a lot of fun next week. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, tune in, everybody. We'll be back next week. Thanks for everybody that watched live on Facebook. Go subscribe on YouTube. Thanks so much for your time, bro.
Yes, sir. See you next week, Dom.